amongst us. All right. Okay, well, as I've already said, as you each arrived, it's very exciting to get back in touch with alumni Youth Astronet educators. And thanks, yes, exactly. Thank you for being willing to, at this point, learn more about what the new project is and what your role in it could be. We invited you all because you are experienced Youth Astronet educators. You've implemented the program in one form or another, in fact, in lots of different forms. And that's just exactly why we're inviting you to join us in this next phase. So my agenda today is to kind of tell you what this next phase is, what we're, the role of the Youth Astronet leadership cohort, which is what you would all become should you, after you hear more about this, decide to move ahead with us. And then to answer any questions people have. And of course, you can always ask us later if questions come up after the session. So I'm going to share my screen just because, I am, if Erica lets me share my screen. She's hosting the meeting, and just show a few slides. Thank you, Erica. All right. Okay. And hopefully you're seeing the correct thing at the moment. A micro-observatory in Youth Astronet. Yes. All right. Very good. You have all experienced the use of our robotic telescopes and the kinds of activities. Many of you have done different activities along the way, and we have new funding from the National Science Foundation to expand the program. And the reason we have that funding is because we were able to demonstrate success around the program, thanks to all of you who, and we, NSF, and in particular, its iTest program, which stands for Innovative Technology Experiences for Students and Teachers. So Youth Astronet is considered one of those. The iTest program is interested in not only scaling up successful programs, getting more people involved and more students involved in STEM learning using these innovative programs, but they're also interested in learning how to scale up innovative programs. So, this project is not only about spreading the program model and disseminating and engaging more educators and youth, but it's also about learning what are the conditions under which the program educators can successfully adapt it into their practice. So that's what you're going to help us with. So again, Youth Astronet brings to bear the strengths of the Center for Astrophysics, the astronomer's toolbox, real robotic telescopes, engaging with digital imaging and processing, and also this online community that includes the students, educators, and STEM professionals. And as a leadership educator in the program going forward, you know that the program is adaptable. People have implemented it in different ways. And so one of the things that would happen during a leadership institute, which we would have this summer, would be a virtual leadership institute, is that together we would kind of refine what are the essential things that if you're coaching a new Youth Astronet educator, they need to know, and what are the flexible, adaptable things that people can bring to the program. So this, of course, the essential elements are controlling real telescopes and getting real data, working with images and visualization and digital images, and doing some kind of project that kind of brings problem solving skills and creative skills to bear in a final project. But the specific content that different folks here have brought to a Youth Astronet experience, it could be that you're focusing on astronomy and you're in a classroom doing moon phases, or it could be you're focusing on, you have a robotics area and you're really engaging kids in thinking about what it takes to operate a moving telescope. Or it might be that you're talking about light and color, or maybe you're bringing art and artistic skills and the skills of creating to the idea of creating astrophotography. So all those things, all of you have engaged with. And our goal for the spread of Youth Astronet to more educators is to try to be sure that the essential things that are successful, that have been shown and that our research shows help students become more confident in science, helps them build their science identity, the things that they enjoy, stay there, but that we also allow enough flexibility that teachers in different environments can bring their strengths and their students' strengths to the experience. So that's what we rely on all of you to help us with. So overall goals of what I guess we're calling Youth Astronet 2.0 is to bring to scale the online learning community for educators, as well as the online learning community for students, and also the professional development model. This idea of all of you were involved in an initial workshop of some sort where you kind of learned the basics, but then you had opportunities to use the online community. If we scale up, we're hoping to reach over the next 5 years, 500 educators and their 15,000 or 20,000 students. And that's a lot of people. And so that's where we want to start to enlist alumni educators to help support the learning of new educators. And then some of those new educators will also become alumni educators. In particular, we're really interested in broadening participation in this innovative technology experience, making sure making sure that kids of color and kids from communities who have not traditionally had a lot of participation in high quality STEM education experiences have an opportunity to participate in Youth Astronet. To scale, another goal of the program is many of you took advantage of our opportunity to have interactive Q&A with a scientist, or to ask questions of a scientist on the forum, on the forums on the Youth Astronet portal. And we are working to scale that up so that every student can have an interaction with a scientist, either online or through virtual Zooms. And I think that given our experience over the past 2 years, there'll be a lot more facility about virtual interactions with scientists that might not have been there 2 years ago. So not that that's worth the last 2 years, but anyway, it is a lots of people know more about virtual interactions. So our vision is that if we partner, if we learn a lot in this program, we also have some partnerships with other robotic telescope networks. And our vision is that every middle and junior high school age person in the country should have access to a robotic observing experience of some sort. That's a long-term vision. And then, of course, the project is a research project. So we're, from NSF's perspective, gathering the data about how the program scales up and how it contributes to STEM learning, both for educators and for students. So the NSF proposal has some specific questions, and this first one is how you're involved. Research question 1, does a focused, well, you're involved in all of these, you would be. One of the things we would be doing in the next 6 months is refining the YouthAstroNet program model and the Moodle and the materials, identifying those essential elements. And so does that refined version, then what we would be asking you guys to do is implement, if possible, a version of the refined YouthAstroNet sometime between June and next September, a YouthAstroNet program with 10 or 20 young people using our pre and post tests. And the thing that we want to make sure is that we're still getting the positive results we got with YouthAstroNet 1.0. We don't want to destroy the curriculum and get worse. We want to at least assure that we're doing equal or better. So the second one is we're currently recruiting educators who teach other STEM programs. Maybe they do a robotics class and later they want to do YouthAstroNet. We're asking them to take pre and post surveys so we can see, this is what's known in educational research as a control or baseline study. Essentially, we want to know what are the kinds of increases in STEM identity we can attribute to the YouthAstroNet experience, and what are the gains that are just because they've had a STEM experience or because a particular educator is really, really great. So we're trying to see what, that's research question 2. The third one is how do educators get better at implementing YouthAstroNet as they do it? And we definitely have some indications from our first round and from people who've done multiple iterations of YouthAstroNet, but we don't have enough educators who've done that to draw statistical conclusions. But it appears that as you do it, you get better, and we'll find that out as we get educators who implement more than once. And then the fourth question, which we'll talk more about during this Leadership Institute we would have in the summer, is about under what conditions of professional development support and under what conditions at implementing site is YouthAstroNet most successful in engaging students. And so we're recruiting 500 educators, and some of them will be trained through an online live course that we might offer, that some of you might be the leads of. Some of them will do self-paced introduction and then be coached by educator leaders. And so we have the idea is to explore what works best for educators, and kind of these educators will be kind of placed in different conditions. Okay, so now I want to go over the things that were in the email that you responded to by coming to this session. So stage 1 of the project is happening right now. We're refining the curriculum, and we'll have a leadership institute this summer. And so if you officially sign on, we'll be having a couple of more meetings with really looking at the portal and some changes that we're making, and talking together about your particular YouthAstroNet experiences, sharing ideas about what are the things that really worked well, and kind of refining that. Then we'd be asking you to implement this optimized version that we've all refined together with some participants, and facilitate the new pre and post survey that we have for this 2.0. There's the Summer Leadership Institutes, which is preparing us all for supporting the educators that we're recruiting to the project, who will, the first batch of those educators will start in the fall, and that'll be kind of round robin. So each year of participation, we understand, this is a long-term project. It's funded for a longer period than most NSF projects, because they know that scale up takes time, but we also know educators' lives change. So each year we'll ask for your renewed participation. So the second stage of the project is Scale Up Cohort 1. As I said, they would be starting next fall, and your role as a leadership educator would be to participate in the online introductory training, and then in the forums on the educator portal to support Q&A. We still have to figure out together exactly how to structure, whether we assign, in fact, Annette actually helped us think about this, asking some questions recently, whether we, we might kind of assign different leaders to a batch of 10 or 15 educators. Remember, they won't all be implementing at once. But if an educator asks, let's say, a question about astronomy on the portal, and another educator asks a question about watercolor techniques because they've seen Annette's implementation of using watercolors to create artworks that go with their astrophotographs. David Dundee, who's an astronomer, doesn't have to answer the watercolor question, and Annette, who's not an astronomer, doesn't have to answer the astronomy question. So you may be assigned as a coach to particular educators, but all of us together are supporting the community of educators. So there's a little crosstalk there. Welcome, Melissa. We're recording this, so the part you missed you'll be able to catch up on, and we're glad you're here now. So I'm giving an overview of the things that were in.
I had to turn my video off, and I just turned it back on, so that's why it looks like I just arrived.
Ah, okay, excellent.
I have kids come in, so I turned the video off temporarily. I'm still at school.
Got it. Okay, well, nice to see you. Okay, so then there's a cycle of kind of academic years for the project. So the first academic year starts September 22. The next academic year, starting September 23, Again, we hope that our recruiting will start picking up. We may have a larger set of educator leaders at that time. It may be that we recruit some additional alum educators. But the cycle continues in which you're assigned a batch of educators. Sometimes you are leading the online training for those educators. Sometimes you're coaching on the Moodle. It's typically, you might over a period of a year expect 40 to 80 hours of involvement. So it's a light touch to help, but okay. And I think, I mean, so you all will remember that the portal kind of looks like this. We're trying to streamline it now in terms of the how it works. Eric has been working on that, and we're also streamlining the image processing tools, and also adding. We have a lot more targets to add to the telescope request portal, because we now have a telescope in the Southern Hemisphere. Actually, we might have had that late. Some of you didn't experience that, but some of you did. So that's kind of it for my presentation. Now it's time to find out what your questions are.
Well, Mary, I've got one just in the implementation cycle, March to August 2022. So we have the initial meetings to create this optimized YouthAstroNet program, and then step 2 is we test out the program and implement it at our institutions. Is that the idea of step 2?
Yeah.
And what's
Exactly.
and so the timing of that is sometime during the next academic year. Is that right? Or my
Well,
or is
if
this-
possible,
actually,
it would be
before-
before the next academic year,
I got
because
it.
the
I got
idea
it.
is we want to make sure everything is working, it works for you, and then we want to look at the pre-post results and make sure we haven't destroyed kids' experiences before we start scaling up.
So
Yeah,
So-
the timing's
so
tough
that's why we
because-
want you guys to implement first, because
Yeah, the timing's tough because if you're looking to work with middle school students,
yeah, and it's
I mean,
totally
the school year for
possible,
us
David,
ends
it's
in
totally possible for some of us to implement in the fall.
yeah, so one thing is I'm already working on optimizing the portal and the curriculum. So over the next month and a half or so, we'll be having these meetings with you to get your additional feedback on what that optimization looks like. So I think our goal is by May, right, Mary, to have.
Yeah, if possible, we'd
Right.
like to have a version that you can implement in May.
Yeah, so I won't have kids in school until the following August, though.
Right.
Because
you're
by
in
May
Georgia. That's
they're
right.
disappearing.
Georgia, you stop school in May.
And
That's right.
August would be fine as well. Potentially
Okay.
early September, we could push.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Jim, you have a question?
Well, yeah, I just have a clarification question to what Dave is talking about. So we're talking about middle-aged students. We're talking about middle school aged students, so they don't necessarily have to be students enrolled in a particular school or something. They could just
No.
be, okay. So
No,
they
if
don't
you have an after school, I mean, so people around this Zoom window here, some are classroom teachers, some are museum educators, some work in after school centers or community centers, some work in anyway, museum, all kinds of places, libraries. So that is one of the questions of our scale up research is, are there particular adaptations that help in out of school environments versus classroom environments, that kind of thing. So, so it'd be great for the research if the leadership cohort could implement the YouthAstroNet 2.0 within the next 6 months.
In your various settings.
In your various settings, or
Whatever
a setting that
look like.
isn't, or possibly even a setting that isn't typical for you, but is you create for this implementation.
I have a question about the optimization. So I have been doing this specifically with tribal communities, and especially with the impact of remote learning for a year. The 6th graders are not at 6th grade level for math or reading or writing or anything. And so when I went in to pull content this last fall to implement our project through our space grant funds, I had to redesign everything because there was no way I was going to be able to have them enter into doing the math with distances between objects in space or anything at all. So is part of the optimization thinking about how to provide some entry points that are very, very conceptual. And I think this would also very much apply to after school settings where you want to engage kids in the learning, but not make it feel like school. And you want to engage all students and not just the ones who are already super nerding out about astronomy, to make things very, very much more conceptual and hands-on. And then you like massage in the measurements and the math. Because I like when I did a deep dive into the lessons, I was like, oh, whoa, this isn't going to work at all.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So I just had to retool, like I pulled the concepts, but I had to provide a lot more support to the students. Like, okay, well, I'm just going to give you these measurements and we're going to talk about this in terms of scale. And we had objects we played with from a nice kit and did some other things. And so that's kind of why I also said yes to this, is because working with diverse populations, like, what 6th graders are ready for in one place is not going to be the same as in another place, basically.
Absolutely. I would say, first of all, a lot of groups don't do the math at all. So that is totally okay.
That is not one of the essential elements.
But we would love that feedback on how we can make, 2 variations perhaps of some of those activities that do have different entry points. I think that is part of kind of this optimization of the additional pieces and how they can be more suitable for different audiences. So yes, we would love to hear that from you.
Yep. And it's totally your experience, that's the strength of bringing the experience that all of you have with different audiences to the next phase of the project, is that we get a lot more kind of real world on the ground feedback about what's really going to work with a particular group of young people. Yeah.
I have a question about age range. I know you say middle school, junior high. I had done this with a group of 5th graders, which had its own challenges that I already recognized, but what is the lowest age range you would want this data from? I have a group right now that I do a science club with that I'm thinking I could try, but they may be just not what the data you're looking for. So.
Well, we
these are 4th graders, to specify.
We
so
say
10
that
10-year-olds.
the age range is 5th through 8th, although we've had 9th graders in it, but 5th through 8th. We've also had 4th graders participate in YouthAstroNet, and I think I think it's really tough for younger than fourth grade. And it's probably somewhat tough for fourth graders, although we've at the conceptual level and the creativity around getting images from space and creating a project that tells a story with those images and learning something along the way, fourth graders can do that.
In fact, I think most of the images behind
In fact,
Mary-
oh, right, these are fourth graders.
No, they're not. They're younger
Oh,
than
but-
fourth graders.
Yeah, these were images by kids who figured out the blending tool in JS9 and just went wild with it. And they did this is a PowerPoint slide from their presentation where they talked about how they did the image processing and used the software to do image analysis. So that anyway.
So they didn't get into any numbers, but they did look up some facts about the objects they were imaging and things like that. So as we said, there's all this kind of.
They learned a little bit about the moon. They did a size and scale modeling activity, and then they did these.
So I guess
Fourth grade. So we would
would
take
welcome
their
it?
fourth grade
Okay.
data.
I do
guess
not
the answer to
have,
that.
I don't have students because I am like a coaching
Mhm.
role already, but I have a science club that I did in place of YouthAstroNet because I did not know if y'all were still doing that. So we're using an engineering as elementary kit right now, but we can shift gears
Mhm.
when we get finished with our products, and we could explore some of this to give feedback. I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
the right
no,
data,
because
not-
the
it
survey
wouldn't
asks
skew it
what
all.
grade you're in. We
Okay.
can, with the, I mean, we have had other projects, not this one, where, our research has found that ages we didn't expect to actually do quite well with, so.
The fifth graders struggled with it, and
Yeah.
COVID cut us off because I was trying to brainstorm ways around it. But we did a scale project where I had them do the math of making a scale model of our solar system, and they did good with that, but could have been missing the elephant at the zoo. So I say, so anyway, all right. So I'll try
Yeah.
and brainstorm how to do it with them. Thanks.
Anybody else have?
I think just another important part about this is a lot of our research is around students' identity as someone who can do science, right? So we have a few questions about content, but it's really about, are we increasing, am I someone who can do science? Am I someone who likes science? So in that case, right, we can, depending on the ways we shift the programming, have impact on fourth graders in the same way that we have impact on seventh graders, because it's not, did you learn this concept that just isn't attainable for a fourth grader because they don't have the background to do that. So I think that's another important part about why it is okay, for our data to include younger students.
I think the other important piece of that is one thing we've run into, like when Rhea did this in the past, she went into sixth grade classrooms, and the sixth grade science standards for space don't really match up well with the utilization of YouthAstroNet. And so, I feel like there's a bit of a stretch to try to kind of make those connections. There's probably some way easier ways to connect with math standards and then technology education standards, and perhaps art. So actually, even just Mary, when you're talking right now, it made me realize well, maybe the focus should be more on looking at waves and light. And then
And that's what it is for some, yeah, exactly. Light and color.
Because we were focusing, or then that's why it also makes more sense in fifth grade. But there's, in terms of versus after school where it doesn't matter, you can just do whatever. And we kind of live in both worlds because we do we support after school programs, but we're also working on curriculum development for schools. And I've had teachers turn me down. They didn't want me to come in because they felt like it didn't fit well with what they're doing now. And they just adopted Amplify Science. And so they don't want to participate. And so anyway, it's just kind of been interesting to think about how we use that. And I've been thinking a lot about it too, just in terms of with JWST and data that's going to be coming from that and all of, so it's in terms of the the school entry points, there's probably some useful kind of refocusing in terms of how you show that it aligns with certain standards.
Yeah.
It actually, is really helpful for me as I'm thinking about kind of how to optimize this, having various, we've talked about in the past, entry points and kind of, maybe it's an art curriculum or a light and color curriculum, and having the specific standards for each of those versus we've generally had kind of overview standards. So that might be a piece that Mary and I can think about of how can we make that easier for somebody to grab and take, some of the new educators of how can they say, oh, well, it aligns if we do it this way much more easily with our work. That's really helpful for me to start thinking through as I'm working on this.
I got a question. So for the new educators, do you have a preference for informal educators or formal educators, or do you not, just anybody?
We are recruiting from networks of both. And we anticipate, of course, we anticipate that about 40% of our educators will be classroom educators. But that means about 60% of our students will be in classrooms. Because typically a classroom educator has a lot more kids than an out-of-school educator. So we want to see how it works in both environments. We're trying to provide the support and resources. We have an educator leadership group that includes educators from both environments. And yeah. And we're doing most of that recruitment. We actually aren't asking you to help us with recruitment of other educators, but if you have some you want to recruit, we'd love to that as well.
Thank you.
Yep. So is there anything giving anyone pause at the moment?
I have a question about the summer 8-hour institutes.
Mm-hmm.
Summers are busy. I'm just wondering what that's going to look like.
Yeah. And I think we're not sure yet what it's going to look like. It is going to be yeah, actually, I don't know whether it's more synchronous than more together than apart.
I think we're hoping you'll help us figure that out.
Oh,
So what would help? What would be useful for you?
Right.
it's obviously virtual, right?
Yes.
Okay, I know it said virtual, but
Yes.
are we looking at 3 to 4 days, couple hours a day?
Yeah, I think we would. Yeah, I mean, we would probably.
Evening, I don't morning, what do we look?
Yeah,
It says mutually agreed upon, and
Yeah, well,
that
that's
sounds
where.
tough.
Right.
Right. And we don't expect, we understand somebody might miss
Gotcha.
one, right?
Okay.
I think I could say that I would probably send out a survey to get kind of general input from this group of, is it going to work better, 2 hours, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday kind of situation. We could
July
potentially,
or early August.
we could potentially do once a week if that was,
Okay.
something that made way more sense for everybody. We were thinking condensing it might make it easier, but perhaps that doesn't make it easier.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to that, and probably won't be super early mornings just because we do have across the nation
Yes.
participation. So it's not.
I'm just thinking because of COVID and I'm backlogged on vacations. I know this sounds bad, but that might be my daughter's graduating. We're taking her out west. We had to cancel a vacation last 2 summers, so we're, I know it sounds horrible problem, but
Well-
even then, I know I could probably still have, get online and participate, but I'm fairly flexible. I just wanted to know what everyone else thought, and I could probably make whatever. I was just
Yeah,
wondering.
and right, so we, in our meetings and our couple of meetings before we plan the Summer Institute, we can also collect some more feedback about format. Eric and I will put our heads together about some different options for format, and we can get some input on that. You know, it may be that we have to offer a couple different sessions or opportunities so that different people can make it.
So you might do it for a few of us at this time, and it might be repeated. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Sounds good to me.
Yep. Anne or Melissa, any questions?
My students have been using the NASA site that is using the Youth Astronet portal. So I don't know if that would interfere with the curriculum at all.
You're using our public interface, the Observing with NASA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a good question.
If it would interfere with the curriculum.
Because you wanted a pre-test and a post-test, and if they're already processing images, that's the problem that I see.
Yeah, so we, for the particular pre-test and post-test that you guys do in the next 6 months, we would want a fresh batch of children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. I forget, where's the pre and post test located? Is it still available on there? Because it's been a while since we've done those. I'm just trying to look for them right now, but
I don't think you'll see it
I think we
there.
Okay.
took them off because we
Okay.
were out
Yeah,
of the research phase, so we took it
Gotcha.
off the,
that's why I can't find them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Makes
and
sense.
we've
That's
made
what
a
I figured.
few alterations and additions to the surveys
Okay.
based on some of our past research and things like that.
I was just thinking about, because I've got a new batch of students, and I know we talked about new group of kids and some people having to wait till August. I guess I was looking at my next group of kids, getting them started in 2 weeks. No, I'm sorry, in a week. Is that, if I don't do that now with this group of kids, it won't be till August or September. No, it won't be till September because we start later this year.
Mhm.
Is that going to be available in that short a time? Probably not.
no,
Okay.
no, because the thing is that the test may be available,
Okay.
but the refined portal and our decisions about the kind of streamlined
Yeah.
curriculum won't
I
be.
guess I was just looking at the first set of dates. The first, what did it say in the email?
Let's see.
Right, so
March
that's
to August 2022.
right. That includes the whole range of getting your feedback about that. And then we probably could have been a little more specific that the actual implementation won't start until at least May.
At the
Okay,
earliest.
that's,
But
yeah,
maybe, Mary, it
that's
sounded
what I
like-
was confused by.
We might have to
Okay,
push till September, might
okay.
be sounding.
Yeah,
like.
so we may have to extend the leadership cohorts implementation into September, October, and have our new educators that you're supporting not starting till November. So.
Okay, thank you.
um,
And in the meantime, if you want those students, we can get them on board on the old as is
Yeah.
portal. They can continue.
Yeah,
to use that.
yes.
The old fashioned way.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay. Well, so the next steps are to kind of confirm your interest. And I think what we're going to do is send out a little link to a brief survey form where you put in your contact information, the email you want us to be using to contact you, and confirm that, yes, you are interested in joining the Youth Astronet 2.0 leadership contingent. And then we will schedule the follow-up meetings to in this month and next month to look at the revisions we're making, to get your input, and to think about scheduling that summer institute. I don't know whether to ask, are most people here going to join us? I feel like I want to put you on the spot because I really would love to have you join us. It would be so exciting.
We're not going to tell you. We're going to surprise you.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
We think you'll really enjoy it, and I know we'll enjoy working with you all. So, and we do try to compensate you as well. So, all right, awesome, great to see you all. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Erica.